We just bombed Iran. It's currently Saturday, February 27th, 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the US and Israel have just bombed Iran. Mind you, no declaration of nor authorization for war by Congress, but what else is new? It looks like the news first broke here in the West around 30 minutes ago, with reports of 3 large explosions going off in Tehran. U.S. officials apparently expect this to be a far more extensive attack than the one from June when they attacked the nuclear facilities. If you've been paying any attention at all to the situation, then you were definitely expecting this. I know I and many others thought that it would happen earlier in the week around the State of the Union, but I'm sure Bill Clinton testifying before Congress today, which apparently enraged Trump quite a bit, called for a distraction. Hopefully this doesn't escalate too much, but a lot of people are expecting it will. To scary levels, let's say. But hey, what else did you expect with the no new wars president?
This is a war of choice. Every single justification that the US and Israel have for attacking Iran is based on completely and utterly fictitious and hypocritical notions, because Trump has droned on and on about how Iran can't have nuclear weapons. Netanyahu has told us over and over again how close the Iranians are to those damn nuclear weapons. But last night, the Omani foreign minister preempted these attacks and appeared on the news to tell people that a deal was close and that Iran was willing to give up all of its highly enriched uranium, meaning they wouldn't be able to make a nuclear weapon. Yet now the US and Israel are attacking Iran to prevent them getting a nuclear weapon. And then you have the idea that this is about regime change because Iran is just so brutal. I am sorry, but first of all, the US and Israel are both incredibly brutal in their abuses of people all over the world. But also, the West is incredibly close to brutal dictators like Sisi, a man who massacred over 1,000 of his own people back in 2013. And he wasn't reprimanded. In fact, Trump calls him his favorite dictator. And finally, the notion that Iran has to go because they sow chaos and instability in the Middle East is so incredibly hypocritical when the West's closest ally in the region is the UAE. The UAE's proxy in Sudan, the RSF, is perpetrating genocide. They are destabilizing the country. They are preventing any kind of peaceful solution, and they slaughtered tens of thousands of people in a singular day. Yet, because they're an ally, they're allowed to get away with it. Make no mistake, the Iranian government is not some wonderful moral institution that we should all venerate, but the idea that the US cares about any of its excessive brutality is completely and utterly ridiculous. This all boils down to the fact that it does not dance the correct Western tune. If it did and massacred thousands of its own people, the US wouldn't care. They'd give it more weapons to do it.
Tell Trump to shut up with the hyperbole that Iran was somehow going to develop nuclear weapons that could endanger the United States homeland when the United States has over 5,000 nuclear weapons that if Iran even thought about detonating one towards our shores, they would literally wipe them off the face of the map. Somehow, Iran's nuclear program was such an immediate danger that he had to go to war with them in the middle of the night, seemingly without congressional authorization, aka illegally, despite the fact that just 7-8 months ago, he claimed that the United States had obliterated completely Iran's nuclear program. Kind of odd that they could somehow develop such advanced nuclear weapons that he had no choice but to strike them so immediately despite that. This is all a farce, just like it was back in 2003 with weapons of mass destruction. And what's very interesting to me is that Trump doesn't seem near as concerned with a country like North Korea having nuclear weapons, despite the fact they haven't signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Despite the fact that 2 days ago, Kim Jong-un announced that he intends to expand their nuclear arsenal. In fact, last year in his global security roadmap, Trump did not even mention North Korea denuclearization.
It's been a pretty insane week, guys. Earlier this week, we had the killing of El Mencho, and US played a part in that. And then we had Trump's speech in Congress, and now we have this. I mean, I lack words. I don't know what to say. So from the clips before, you've seen what the people are saying. There'll be more clips for you to understand the whole situation and what other people are saying, and then we'll talk about this, and let me know what you think. Subscribe, like, share, turn on your post notifications, and don't forget to leave your comments down below. Let's get into these few more videos.
Iranians want their country to be bombed by America and Israel. How does that make any sense? Stick around and I'll explain. In normal circumstances, no one wants a war in their country, but Iranian circumstances are anything but. In the past decades, Iranians have done everything to peacefully change the country. They voted for reformist presidents. They protested election results. They protested the hijab law. They protested inflation and so much more. Those attempts failed, were met with violence, or they brought about change that was way too slow. All the while, Iranians are suffocated more and more by sanctions brought about by the state's core ideology, which it is not compromising on. Those sanctions have caused an economic collapse. Iran has the highest inflation rate and the most devalued currency in the world, so people who could barely make ends meet went out and protested, but they were crushed. And now they feel that there is no option left to peacefully change the country, so they're advocating for regime change from abroad. You may ask those Iranians, haven't they learned from the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan? Their answer is that Iran is not like those countries. It's older, more authentic, not a colonial construct, not divided in the same ways. It has a more educated population, and on and on. Iranians who support regime change think Iran is more comparable to Germany and Japan, which in the long view of history are probably better off because of American intervention. That's their view. My view is that a regime change war is unlikely to make Iran free and give us self-determination, and I always fear for civilians caught in the crossfire. In any case, we should be respectful with each other and communicate with peace. We are all Iranians.
If you don't understand what the fuck is happening in Iran right now, here is a quick summary of everything you need to know. To fully understand everything that's going on right now, I'm going to give you some brief historical context. In August of 1953, the United States and the United Kingdom did something called Operation Ajax, where they overthrew the democratically elected Prime Minister Mossadegh and implanted their guy, Reza Shah Mohammad Pahlavi. Also known as the Shah, he oversaw Iran from the 50s to the 70s, and during this time, Iran saw a lot of economic growth. They had liberalization, modernization, women were able to do whatever they want, wear whatever they want, go to university, and it was an overall very liberal society. However, at the same time, it was heavily influenced by Western countries. So the United Kingdom, the United States, Israel, they had heavy ties and influence to Iran, which a lot of people did not like. The Shah also had a secret police called the Savak, which employed a lot of over-surveillance of citizens, brutality, and unnecessary aggressions, which the citizens grew to heavily resent. At this time, a lot of the wealth and power was also solely concentrated with Iran's elite, which religious leaders and the general population grew to resent because of the heavy Western influence and funding that the elite had. By 1979, the people got tired and had a revolution where they replaced the monarchy with the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is the Iran that we see today. Now, the new leader we see is Ayatollah Khomeini, who carried on Iran from 1979 from the revolution to today. And his government strongly stood against Western influence and cultural dominance, against imperialism, against Zionism, and strongly supported the Palestinian cause. So while these objectives were great, there were other downsides to this government. It imposed heavy religious extremism and rules and regulations on women, women's hijabs, covering up all the time to a point of brutality, which we saw in the Masha Amini case and Zan Zindagi Azadi movement. Political dissent, independent media, and civil society activism are heavily restricted. On top of that, the economy has become so devastated that it's hard for an everyday Iranian to live in. US imposed sanctions to curb the Iran nuclear program has resulted in a collapse of the economy as of late December. Inflation is skyrocketing. The rial, which is Iran's currency, has totally collapsed, and people across Iran are protesting. The civil unrest is so tense that the current Iranian government is enforcing brutality amongst protesters. Many are dying at the hands of government officials. There have been widespread internet and phone blackouts, so people living in Iran have no contact to their family members or friends outside of Iran. People of Iran are not only fed up with the economy, they're fed up with the government, and they just want a widespread change of government and a complete overturning. There are, however, some downsides to this. You may see some photos circulating of Iranian protesters carrying the Israeli flag. This is because there are some Iranians who want to bring back the Shah monarchy. They want to have that Western-aligned government. They want to have that Zionist-aligned government, which would mean that the Palestinian cause would greatly suffer because Iran is one who's greatly funding Hamas right now. Their argument is that they would see more liberalization, women could be free, victory again. But if I know anything about Western intervention, is that Western intervention may look good right now, but overall you'll see a result like Afghanistan and complete failure all over again. I think what the people of Iran need is a third choice, not just a decision between the Islamic Republic versus the Shah. They need a democratically elected leader who will stand for their interests while also not standing for religious extremism. More than ever, I also want to see Iranian voices amplified, the people of Iran, diaspora Iranians, to decide what their government is for them. And if people in Iran are tired with the religious extremism, that doesn't automatically make them a Zionist. I want that to be clear. As you can see with this issue, there's no black and white, there's very gray, pros and cons to both sides, so we will see what unfolds in Iran over the course of the next few months.
This is truly embarrassing, but I really need help. I live in Iran, and the truth is the currency here is collapsing. If you don't live here, it's hard to understand what that means. Like, $1 might not mean much to you, but for me, it means food, it means internet, it can mean survival. Like, imagine working hard, studying, trying to build a future, but every month your money becomes worthless. Like, every year, prices double, even triple. I'm not here to beg. I mean, I would be happy if anyone wants to donate me some money, but I'm here to teach. If you need help with biology, English, with stuff like chemistry, I can help in the languages of Persian/Farsi and English. And you pay what's normal for you, and for me, the amount can literally change my family's life. If you're interested, DM me or comment, and if you can't, just share this, because maybe someone out there needs a teacher, and I really, really need help. Thank you.
Welcome back. So this last video is from a month back. It genuinely goes to show what the people of Iran have been dealing with. This is, and it's what has been the state of affairs for a long time in Iran. If in a position to, you may reach out to her, offer help or an opportunity. If you have, a TikTok handle is shown in the video. Though the moment I reckon it could be hard reaching her because of what's ongoing, but still, if you can offer her help, please give her a lifeline. Yeah, so I've been following the news closely today, and it's hard to look away, honestly. Explosions have been reported in Tehran and other cities, and Iran has already responded by firing dozens of ballistic missiles toward Israel and US military bases in places like Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, and Jordan. When I think about how ordinary people in Iran must be feeling right now, it seems complicated and painful. From what I've seen in reports and accounts from people inside the country, there's a mix of fear, anger, and for some, a small sense of hope. Many Iranians have been deeply unhappy with their government for a long time, especially after the large protests in January, where the authorities used extreme force and thousands were reportedly killed and arrested. Some people who oppose the regime have said they will accept outside pressure, even military strikes, if it weakens the leaders enough to give the people a real chance to change things. I've read one account where someone described anti-regime activists preferring precise Israeli actions over broader US ones because they fear widespread distractions like what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. Some are saying they are feeling less afraid than during earlier conflicts because they want the current system to end. At the same time, there's also a strong national feeling that comes out when a country is attacked from outside. The Iranian government labels protesters as agents working for the US or Israel, which helps rally support among those who are more patriotic to their country. So most people probably do not want the kind of chaos and suffering that often follows when outside powers try to force a government change. Civilians always bear the heaviest burden in these situations, and that reality makes the whole thing even more troubling. If I try to look at this from a neutral point of view and ask what will actually be the best for the greater good, it's not straightforward. On one side, Iran does present real dangers. It has built up a large stock of enriched uranium, it has developed long-range missiles, and it has supported armed groups that have carried out attacks in different parts of the region. If a change in government happened and led to a more open system, it could mean greater freedom for Iran's people and less support for violence elsewhere. No, Trump frames the operation as a way to remove a major source of threats and give Iranians a path to safety and dignity. But personally, I remain doubtful that military action will achieve those goals without creating much worse problems. Past efforts by the United States to remove governments in places like Iraq and Libya, we saw, resulted in power vacuums, prolonged fighting, rise of new extremist groups, and years of instability rather than lasting improvement. American public opinion polls show low support for using force against Iran, especially if it leads to US casualties or higher costs of living at home. Diplomacy has failed before. The earlier nuclear agreement collapsed in 2018, and attempts to restart talks in 2025 did not work. But returning to serious negotiations where Iran agrees to verifiable limits on its nuclear activities in exchange for the lifting of some sanctions still seems like a less risky path than open war, in my opinion. The greater good, in my view, lies in finding ways to reduce tension through agreement rather than escalation. Even though that is difficult, trust is low, and it makes it difficult. It makes it more difficult. When you consider the bigger picture, this conflict is also about who controls influence in the Middle East after years of shifting power. When the US reduced its direct role in the region following the withdrawal from Afghanistan, Iran expanded its reach through allied groups and proxies. These strikes may be an attempt to push back against that and re-establish stronger Western presence, perhaps with the hope that a weakened or changed Iran could align more closely with the US and its allies, similar to how Japan was transformed after World War II. But we've seen when foreign powers impose major changes, especially in Iran, where the 1953 coup still shapes memories. It often generates deep and lasting resentment that fuels new cycles of conflict and radicalization. And also, what the US is doing may be to send a message to other countries considering nuclear programs, that showing them that pursuing them, the nuclear programs, can invite military consequences. But all this undermines the international rules that are supposed to prevent powerful nations from acting unilaterally against others. If major countries can overthrow governments without broader agreement, it weakens institutions like the UN and increases the chance of a more disorderly and dangerous world where strength decides outcomes. Whether the United States is acting purely for the security reasons it states, or if there are other motives involved, when I look closer, other factors seem to play a significant role. Israel's leadership has long viewed Iran as an existential threat and has pushed for stronger actions over many years against it. The US also has interests in keeping oil supplies stable, limiting the growing ties between Iran, China, and Russia. Now, for Israel, it has legitimate basis for self-defense because groups backed by Iran have repeatedly attacked it. But The scale and targets of these operations raise questions about proportionality. At the same time, Israel's military actions in Gaza, what we saw, have caused widespread destruction and loss of life over an extended period. International bodies have described the occupation of Israel in Gaza as unlawful and called for greater humanitarian access. Yet, there has been no comparable international military response as what we see happening in Iran. The United States has often blocked the US has blocked stronger UN measures against Israel. This clear difference in how threats from Iran are met with direct force, while actions in Palestine receive criticism but limited enforcement, highlights inconsistencies in the application of international rules. I hope you all can see that. In the end, this situation brings enormous suffering, most of all to ordinary Iranians caught in the middle. The path that seems wisest involves returning to diplomacy and de-escalation wherever possible, even if it requires difficult compromises. The broader consequences could affect stability across the region and beyond for many years to come. Peace is hard to achieve, but I believe it's worth every effort to pursue it. I mean, am I wrong for thinking this? What are your thoughts on all of this? Drop them down let me know in the comments.
Yes, we are going to war with Iran. No, this is not another opportunity for you guys to display your bizarre obsession with Jews. You don't need to like Israel, but if you like any aspect of the luxuries that you have living in Western society, then you need to realize that radical Islam is and has always been a threat to your own existence. President Trump campaigned on not letting Iran build nuclear weapons in 2016 and 2020 and again in 2024. But what did Iran do in 2026? They built nuclear weapons.
We about to fact check this first. If you mess with me, make sure to hit that follow button. Happy Black History Month and happy Ramadan. Let's get it. What the hell is he talking about? First, how is Iran a threat to Western civilization if they're nowhere near the West? Iran is located in the Middle East, meaning they're in the middle of 4 continents in the Eastern Hemisphere. So that means Iran is unable to send troops to the United States, nor do they have the military capability to launch any missiles that can reach the United States. Not to mention that there's no evidence that Iran is making any nuclear weapons. Last year, the Intelligence Committee came out and said that Iran is not making any nuclear weapon. Not too long ago, the Director General literally said that Iran is not making any nuclear weapons. Is MAGA forgetting that Donald Trump literally campaigned on no new wars and then later tells the American people that we're in the middle of a war and that American soldiers may lose their lives? Mind you, this is the same president that told you that Operation Hammer, which is the operation where America bombed Iran last summer, yeah, Donald Trump said that their nuclear sites were obliterated. But now America's telling you that we're going into war with Iran because they may be creating nuclear weapons. I don't know, but that sounds familiar.
Yeah, so that's it for the video. Thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. I really want to know what you all guys think. Let me know down in the comments. I'll probably make another video or several more other videos regarding this whole situation. So follow and turn on your post notifications to get notified when the videos drop. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.